Hey, I'm so excited to be here to have this conversation with you folks. AI is something I'm super passionate about, so to be here and have this conversation makes me feel very privileged. I want to do two things, really. One is from me to you. I would like to have you all be extremely curious and inspired to do something with AI. The second thing is more from you to me. I would like some real down-to-earth feedback on what I'm about to present. It's all in a raw material. It's really raw. We're still experimenting as we go through. The space of AI and AI design is fairly new. So these are things that we've thought of and things that we've derived and distilled from very practical things that we've done in engaging with clients and customers. A little bit more about me. I love cartoons, and I watched a lot of cartoons, especially when I was a child, probably because I wasn't so built for sports. All right? Astro Boy was perhaps one of my most favorite cartoons. For those of you who don't know, Astro Boy was this android, and Astro Boy would go off on these amazing adventures with his friends, and they'd solve amazing things. And I really think that's what inspired me to do engineering at university. And embark on this amazing career of working in the AI space. There's so many different definitions and different descriptions of artificial intelligence, but I just want to frame what I think is a great way of looking at what AI is. So there's this thing called a cognitive framework. And for those of you who do psych would understand that, we as humans, we go through these 4 stages where we observe our immediate world around us, we interpret the information that we have, we evaluate, and then we make some decisions for some actionable insights. I want you to pause a little bit, and I want you to think of someone who inspires you, someone you aspire to be like. Your Johnny Ives, your Leonardo da Vinci's. For me, that person's Ada Lovelace. She was the world's first computer programmer. Have you got someone in mind? Great. Now imagine what it would be like if this person was next to you every day to help you make better decisions in life. From the very simple and mundane to the sophisticated, complex things, to help you achieve better outcomes. You know what? I think that's a really endearing view of looking at artificial intelligence as assistive, less artificial intelligence and more augmented intelligence, where AI is helping you augment your own intelligence. I want to give you a quick tool to help you identify what a great AI system could look like. And there's a lot of information out there, there's a lot of vendors, a lot of people that say they use AI in their tools and software. So here's 4 things that I think make up a really good AI system. A really good AI system should be able to understand data or information the same way as us humans do, right? It's about time computers. We're able to ingest information the same way we do. So it's not just information that sits on structured databases, but things like emails, PDFs, images, videos, sound. Like a good AI system should be able to ingest all of that. The second pillar is a good AI system should be able to take all of this information, structured, unstructured, and form hypotheses from this. And then, with each new interaction, either from a new piece of data or interacting with a human, a really good AI system should be able to learn and pivot its hypothesis. But for me, really, I think it's the 4th pillar that's really important. I think a brilliant AI system should be able to interact with a human as frictionlessly as 2 humans interacting with each other. So understand, reason, learn, and interact. So if you think about it, if a system can understand, reason, learn, and interact, then it might be that we're really shifting from this transactional era of computing to the relationship era. Right? If you think about how we've journeyed through technology, way back when, the language that we're using was around data and product, and it was often this competition between humans and machines. And then we kind of matured a little bit, and we started talking about things like information. We started talking about things like solutions. And today, we're talking about things like knowledge and experiences and collaborations. But really, in the relationship era, it's a bit more than that. It's about having insights and empowering and humans and machines working mutually towards a common outcome. So if that's a relationship era, well, how do you design a relationship? Like, how do you design a relationship? Just think about the relationships that you formed throughout your life, through your childhood, and maybe throughout the couple of days at the conference. Have a think about that. And I want to play a quick video of, I think, the most endearing relationship on the silver screen, which is R2-D2 and C3PO, right? Why do these robots feel so futuristic, right? And I think one of the main reasons they feel futuristic is because they communicated seamlessly. It's not that they were human-like. I think that was that frictionless effort in communicating. So I'm going to play this video. You can ignore like the boxes around C3PO. That's Watson just trying to identify C3PO and trying to find his sentiment. Right, so play this quick video.
We'd better go. Artu, wait! Oh dear. Artu, I really don't think we should rush into all this. Oh, Artu, wait for me!
Right? So even for non-humans, for robots, conversations seem to form the bedrock of relationships. And really, as social beings ourselves, it comes so effortlessly, so frictionlessly. So I want to ask a question. Why has it been so hard for computers to understand us? Right? Computers have been around for a long time. Why is that? So I want to do a bit of an experiment with the audience. So this is an individual experiment. You're not supposed to cooperate. I'm going to throw up a statement. And I see a lot of folks taking notes, sketching, etc. I'm going to throw up a statement, and I would like for you, individually, to sketch what that looks like. Okay? I'm not going to give you too much time, but sketch super quick. And if you don't have something, just kind of imagine it in your head. Ready? Like 5 seconds left. Okay, cool. Styluses, pencils down. There was some furious sketching there. Do you want to just hold yours up? That looked, yeah, that was pretty. Oh wow, that's incredibly detailed. All right. So, look, some of you might have drawn an image like this, right? Flying over the boat with the red bow. Some of you might have drawn an image like this, flying over the boat with a red bow. Or a fly over the boat with a red bow. Or any other permutations. And you know what? They're all right? They're all correct. Something was missing here. Like, I'm in a room of top talent, both from New Zealand and across the world, and there were so many different interpretations of this. So something was missing. So keep that in mind. There's another aspect when it comes to conversation, and this is a theorem or principle that assumes that to have really efficient conversation or communication, there needs to be this undercurrent of cooperation between the participants. And it's this, there's these 4 rules called Grace's Maxim. So you can read the paper that was published here. So let's take a look at humans and machines. So if we assume there needs to be cooperation, and we've talked about this being augmented intelligence, it really forms, like humans and machines form this symbiotic relationships where we as humans kind of augment the machine and machines augment the human. But there was something missing, right? Everyone sketched different things. And it could be that there was no purpose defined to help you sketch and inform what it was that you were going to sketch. And also, the information, so the world around you, was not provided. You had no information around why you were doing this, right? And so there's a whole bunch of things there. But really, the piece that connects all of this is being able to exchange information between these four silos. And that's the context. So being able to exchange information in context across human machine, the purpose, and the world around you. And the context really is exchange of information. And isn't conversation just the meaningful exchange of ideas and information, right? So if we take that definition, really, conversation forms this healthy relationship. And to have a healthy relationship, we think there's three things that forms this foundation: trust, value, and purpose. So with forming trust, we think it's about expression, value is about minimum viable knowledge, and purpose is having an intent. I'm going to zip through these super, super quick, because there's a lot here to distill, and I was taking some time to kind of razor this down to some very few key things. But I want to show you some AI lives, right? So we'll go through this super quick, and I'll show you AI being used to help you build a conversation system. So the very first piece is around trust. And it's the willingness for a user to invest with an emotional bond with the system. And I think with conversation systems, it's very different to having a pane of glass, right? Where you're restrained to buttons and scrolls and tiles, etc. Where trust is predicated really on the feeling of human control. There's other things too, but I think in the context of design, it's around human control. And if you were to summarize that, it's around the expression that you build your conversation system with. And for expression, there's a lot of things involved, but there's three key things: viewpoint, writing and tone, and personality. So the first is viewpoint. Let's look at what that means. It's really the role that the bot should adopt in relationship to the end user. So the conversation system that you're building, is it going to act like a coach? Is it going to educate you like a teacher? Or is it like a regulator, like when you're doing your taxes, it's kind of taking you through a formal process? You know, what's the role, what's the viewpoint of the bot? The next is writing and tone. That's really the voice that your solution or the bot speaks in. And there's a couple of different things. Sure, the language and tone matters, but there's also the accuracy, the consistency in which and how the bot responds to human that's important, right? So if you look at yourself and people you know, you expect a certain response from when you talk with person A versus person B, right? And there's also how you consider the tone and writing in a conversation system leaning forward or leaning back and guiding a user through. And really, there's a bunch of writing guides that have been adopted from interface design that are really useful, and there's a bunch of them here. I'll put some links at the end of the slide. But really, fundamentally, it's not what you say, right? With a conversation system, it's how you say it. So here's a pro tip. It's analog, it's old school, but we've really found that doing like a good old table read, just as you were doing a script for a TV show or movie, really helps when people role play being the bot and they take turns. You have sponsor users in, and you have the builders, the devs, and the designers all in a room, and that's a table read for The Force Awakens. So I find that really useful. The last piece is around personality. Around how do you establish a personality that communicates not just your bot's purpose, but really how it represents the values for your brand. And so when people think about personality, the first thing that comes to mind is, let's get the bot or the conversation system to crack some jokes, right? It's a lot more than that, right? It's around the actual words that you're using, the nonverbal cues. So if it's not a text-based system, like the nonverbal cues that the conversation system's speaking to, but also the overall aesthetic, right? It comes back to things we're familiar with around the design, the color, the typography, all of that. So if you take all of these things together, what you'd expect is to have, to take a user through this very linear journey. But unlike an app or a pane of glass, conversations don't happen like that, right? Like conversations meander. Like you'll start off on one tangent, you'll go off on another tangent, there's misinterpretations, things that don't understand, you'll have to repeat things, etc. So as you journey through this, the human will be taking this meandering course and the bot's being designed to go on a linear path. And it is a complicated thing to have the bot to pivot every single time to adjust to the human. It's a really complicated problem. But with a complicated problem, maybe we should apply AI to solve it, right? So why don't we use AI to understand user tone and sentiment to, in real time, adjust the personality and tone of the bot itself? And I'd like to show you a little bit of what that might look like, right? Here's Personality Insight. It's an API or an intelligence block that we can throw some text at it, and it'll derive like the personality of the text. And I've been trying to work out what type of text to use, and I thought, hey, I've been developing a relationship with a lot of the speakers. So is there any speaker that wants to put their hands up and have the personality analyzed live? Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So many volunteers. I was just going to go with myself. I think, Elizabeth, you put your hand up first. Okay. All right. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so all I'm going to do, folks, is I'm just going to copy this text. I'm just going to reload this because just make sure. Can you see the screen? You can. Okay. And so I'm going to click your text. All I'm doing is copying and pasting this in here. Now, please bear with me. This is a live system. I'm going to hit analyze, and it'll come back with some analysis. You ready? Okay. Elizabeth, you feeling good? Yeah? All right. I'm nervous for you. Hey, it came back with stuff, right? So I'll let you digest that for a little bit. Shrewd, critical, authority challenging, that's good. Brilliant about positive change, philosophical. Hey, I'm going to pause you here for a second. Do you realize what just happened? Okay, the text went from my laptop across this dodgy Wi-Fi to Australia, to the Watson data centers in the US, where Watson read that, processed it, and it made the same journey back. And that's how long it took. Right? So AI is fast. I also want to draw your attention here to this piece here where it says weak analysis. So a good AI system, remember, doesn't give a black or white answer. So it's looked at this and said, hey, I've only looked at 294 words. It's a weak analysis. You give me more information, I can increase my confidence intervals. So here's the other thing about AI. AI is not about big data. It's about squeezing value from the little amount of data that you have. And again, it gives you a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, wow, you're really open, 100%. Not very agreeable, though, right? And so you can do more interesting things. So I'll just do like a quick tone analysis. Again, very similar thing. It's going to come back, and it's looked at the joy in your article. Look at each sentences, right? It's like high threshold for joy, etc. So using this, you can kind of have your bot pivot as it understands like anger. You can have like a business rule that says, hey bot, if the anger threshold goes beyond like 46%, maybe I'm going to pivot and have a human interrupt and take over the conversation, right? So there's some really interesting things you can do to pivot the bot in real time. Also, for those of you who code, there's this thing here, fork on GitHub. So that all of the source code for the two apps I just showed you are available for you to take and use and reuse and remix, right? Cool. That was fun. That all went well, right? And if we have time towards the end, we can do like a personality match with some celebrities online. Okay, let's get back to around defining what the corpus of information that you use. So it's around defining what we call, I'm going to zip through this super quick, where you define like depth of the topic or the corpus of information, categorize them, prioritize it, and then go through this process of finding out what might be the minimum viable knowledge that you need to train your bot. So there's a process and a method and a framework to allow you to be able to do that. I'm going to zip through so quick to get through the end, because I really want to mention that those three things for a relationship. But really, I think it's really important, and I think there's a responsibility for us as designers to understand that we have a strong ethical responsibility when we design these conversation systems. So think about the humans that are going to interact with the system and the conversation turns that they'll make. And so here's a handy guide that you can download and have a read, where it really synthesizes 5 key things that you have to account for for ethical considerations. I want to wrap up super quick. I might share all these slides for you, but here's a view of AI being used here in New Zealand, a study done by the AI Forum right here, and it's a huge ecosystem. And there's a huge abundance of tools. I want to pause and very quickly appreciate the folks that have, from IBM, that have put a lot of effort into designing for AI, both from the worldwide team, but also from my team right here in New Zealand. So there's a strong amount of talent right here in New Zealand, and this is the team that's working on it. So if you are interested in supporting us and lending some of your talent and skills, please get in touch. We'd like to hear more about your thoughts, etc. And I want to leave you with this quote from Adam Cutler, who's our distinguished designer. He says that when you are in doubt, and it applies for anything really, always design for people first and what they value. Mentioned before about my daughter being trained on an AI system. I just want to play this as a kind of a close for the conference to help you appreciate what the future that we're designing for. Right?
I can't.
Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I really enjoyed being able to have this conversation with you. I'll try to make as many resources available for you to read, but please do get in touch with me. My details are up there. I would like to continue this conversation and trying to create some momentum right here in New Zealand. And also, my friends and colleagues that I've made across the world, let's collaborate in something. Thank you so much. I've been Isuru Fernando. You've been so fantastic. Thank you.